So the last video was about the key concepts and principles which helps us to understand the ecological and systems theory. This video will talk and discuss about how those theories and principles can be applied within our social work practice. We'll discuss those through the different stages where a social work practice occurs, and the first step in that social work process would be engagement. Engagement involves two things. First, engagement is the process of the practitioner developing a professional relationship with the client that fosters the trust and authenticity needed to work together. Second, engagement means helping the clients to become invested in the services they are receiving. Engagement in a parent education group, for example, can be seen when a parent develops a positive relationship with the group leader and through the client's regular attendance and active involvement in the service. I would say that engagement of all the stages in the social work practice is the most important and the one which is actually ongoing till the end of the whole social work process, because it is such an this process of how you engage with your client will actually differ from person to person, and there is no set formula of how you can prepare a caseworker to do engagement. Engagement, according to an ecological and systems theory, means a social worker does not just engage an individual client. Instead, the social worker seeks to build relationships with the systems surrounding the client, looking for opportunities to enhance the goodness of fit between the systems and their environment. The next stage is assessment, that collects information that helps the social worker come to understand the client and the presenting problems. Assessment involves conducting interviews with client using the micro skills which we discussed in chapter 1. Assessment also involves collecting observational data and reviewing the past reports or other relevant information that help to formulate a clear understanding. Assessment, according to ecological and systems theory, suggests information is collected not just about the client but also about the client's reciprocal transactions with the environment. When an assessment is conducted, according to the ecological and systems theory, often an eco map is used. An eco map is an illustration that describes how the client interacts with the systems within the environment. An eco map is very helpful because it also helps to see the client like diagrammatically in front. When the caseworker and the client are interacting, it helps to understand the client also how the different systems are being affected, and that helps in the formulation of the intervention and the next steps in the social work process. The eco map will be described later in the chapter, like how it can create an efficient picture of goodness of fit. Once an assessment is complete, a social worker helps the client understand the goals of the client, which he or she wants to accomplish through the involvement with the social worker. Goal setting can be formalized and include a written case or treatment plan that is signed by the social worker and the client. Goal setting may also be less formal, involving a verbal agreement between the social worker and the client regarding a plan of action. In either case, the goals are connected to the information that was covered during the assessment stage. When setting goals according to a person in environment perspective, a social worker would not simply look for change in the client, but would also look for ways to increase the goodness of fit between the environment and the client. In some cases, this may involve setting a goal to change the way a client interacts with a system in the environment. The next stage, intervention. Intervention by a social worker involves the action that seeks to enhance the functioning of a client. Consistent with ecological and systems theory, the intervention seeks to enhance the functioning of a system by improving the goodness of fit between the client and the systems with which she interacts. As explained in the goal setting section, because ecological and system theories are interested in the transaction between the person and the environment, intervention can involve changing how people interact with their environment or changing the environment. Systems can include individuals, couples, families, social groups, communities, organizations, and structural systems such as state and federal policies. Intervention for social workers occur on 3 levels of practice, which are termed as micro practice, meso practice, and macro practice, depending on the size and complexity. Micro practice involves direct practice with clients and their most immediate surroundings. Meso practice involves mid-level practice with communities or organizations. Macro practice involves intervening to change policies or practices that can affect the members of a society. Therefore, social work intervention coming from a person in environment perspective can include a range of activities such as counseling that helps step families to foster communication and connection, psychoeducation for parents to enhance knowledge of child development, community organization to create a neighborhood watch program aiming to reduce crime, advocating a change in hospital policy that would honor same-sex partners in medical decision making, or seeking change in federal legislation regarding immigration policy. Termination is the ending of a professional relationship between social workers and their clients. Because a person in environment perspective requires a social worker to develop relationships with multiple people in a client's environment, termination will involve closing all of those interactions. Evaluation is the final step of the social work process. Evaluation involves determining the degree to which the established goals were accomplished. Evaluation is also concerned with whether the intervention provided through social work practice helped facilitate the change process. Specific to ecological and systems theories, evaluation involves determining whether there is an improvement in the goodness of fit between clients and their environment. Evaluation involves linking social work intervention to changes both in the client and in the systems embedded in the client's environment. Special attention is given to looking not just at changes to the systems, but also at interactions between the client and the systems with which the client maintains reciprocal relationships. Evaluation when considering a person in environment perspective is challenging because systems and ecological theories acknowledges that complexity of the human experience is a real thing. Although this complexity is a strength of these theories, it makes measurement difficult. We'll end this chapter with understanding the strengths and limitations of ecological and systems theory. Ecological and systems theory are fundamental to social work practice. They move the social work practice from locating problems within the client systems to a more holistic approach that considers how systems in the environment can maintain or even exacerbate the social problems. When practitioners intervening with people who struggle with problems such as depression, anger, poor self control, financial struggles, poor relationships, or health disparities focus solely on an individual. They may miss a true understanding of the complex nature of these issues. They may also leave untapped potential areas of intervention that lie outside of the individual. It may even cause people to feel blamed for problems that lie outside of themselves. Understanding the complexity of these problems is a clear strength of ecological and systems theory. Another strength of taking a person in environment perspective is that it pushes social workers to seek social change when the structures of a society limit the potential of its members. A focus on macro practice that includes efforts to advocate for groups who are hurt by oppressive social practices, to analyze and seek change in social policies that hinder certain groups in a society, or to conduct focus groups to ensure that public opinion is understood by policymakers, are all efforts that serve the social work's mission to enhance the functioning of people and communities. Although ecological and system theory are fundamental to multi-level social work practice, they also have limitation. First is the complexity of these theories make them difficult to measure. As discussed in the chapter 1, that social work is becoming increasingly interested in evidence-based practice. So when you have ecological systems theories, which is so much grounded in human behavior and so much of human instinct, then it becomes difficult to measure, because it's such a complex thing to be involved in, where human interactions are the core of these theories. So that is one limitation. However, considering the complexity of ecological and system theory, it is difficult to measure social work intervention that align with these theories. Although a person in environment perspective is consistent with social work's mission and is referenced in MSW's preamble, these practices are not identified as being empirically supported. And another limitation of ecological and systems theory is that they are broad theories offering very little direction to social workers regarding specific interventions. However, these broad theories can offer applications to all types of social work settings and to multi-level practice. With these broad applications comes a limitation that some level of specificity is lost. When these ideas are adopted to fit a narrow practice setting, such as family therapy in the 1960s and 1970s, in relation to family systems theory, more specificity is possible. However, some people are concerned that broad theories do not offer the degree of guidance about practice that some social workers would prefer.